always wondered what Meemaw meant when she said the longer you put off the truth, the truer the truth becomes. But I really just think she was talking about college football, because think about this. So we've seen some teams get upset. We've seen some surprising results. We've seen some players underperform, overperform. And then we've seen others that will end up doing the same thing. They just haven't been put through the meat grinder yet. And they are. Some as early as this weekend. We're jam-packed high atop a splendid downtown Nashville, Tennessee on this Tuesday night, September 30th, the year of our Lord 2025. Yes, friends, it is Tuesday night. It is prediction night around here. Whomsta to thunk it, the Vanderbilt Commodores are playing in a game that has attracted College Game Day. And not for some novelty reason, not like the time they went to Amherst. You know, this is the real deal. This is a top 20 matchup at Alabama. We'll do that one. We'll do Miami FSU. We'll do Texas, Florida. You know, is there really a whole lot of difference between those teams? The model says yes, but the model, again, favors Texas against the Ravens, against the Chiefs, against the Bills. So we'll see. We have to do a very, very rare late September mood update, mood tracker type situation for our friends in State College, including one out in the production truck right now. Yeah, the closest that producer Jesse has ever come to just flat out being featured on the show is tonight, and not a moment too soon. Thousands upon thousands of dollars from the Pate State endowment have gone to Jesse's therapy over the past 72 hours or so. It's tough. It's tough around Penn State circles. So we got that. Got some really mind-boggling facts about the transfer portal. I got some best bets. We got a whole bunch of stuff. We're jam-packed, and they're watching us in San Angelo, Texas, in Lawrence, Kansas, in Salt Lake City, Utah, in Blue Ridge, Georgia, and wherever you're watching and listening. Listen, I got our data report today. Our numbers, insane. So thank you. I'm not begging you anything. I'm not asking you to contribute a dime. All I'm asking you to do is subscribe to the channel. About 50% of our viewership is still unsubscribed. I'm told, I've got it on good authority, that some of you think you're subscribed and you're not. It doesn't cost anything. It doesn't sign you up for anything. It doesn't even matter to you. It just helps us. So check on YouTube or Pod. See if you're subscribed. If you're not, click it. That's it. And then go get your mom's phone and do it for her, and your sister's phone and do it for her, and all's well that ends well. It doesn't matter. It doesn't hurt them. And what they don't know can't hurt them. So let's dive into the show tonight. Looking forward to this. Been looking forward to this show since the last show. Miami, Florida State, Saturday night, 7:30 Eastern on ABC. This is amazing. And I think it's being overlooked a little bit. Some people are missing it badly here. This game presented by Quick Trip. We are going to the game. We will be there. We will be on the sideline. Freshly renovated venue down there, but still with the mystique of a legendary venue that has hosted iconic matchups between these teams. See, when I was a youth rolling around Georgia, and even though I was in Columbus, there was a huge contingent of Florida State fans. I myself wore a Florida State starter jacket to school once upon a time. Why? Well, not because my dad played there or my mom went there or anything. It was because of Bobby Bowden. It was because of what they were doing when I was a little kid. It was a big deal, man. I mean, Florida State football was kind of infectious. It kind of took over the South, even when Cannell played there. I mean, think about all they had going against them with that. And people still liked them. And I did too. And then the rivalry waned, and it hasn't mattered nationally a whole lot. And this was tracking to be this huge blow-up game. And then FSU lost to Virginia Friday night. I feel like a lot of the luster was lost on the game, and I have no idea why. I have no idea whatsoever why. This is going to be a knockdown drag-out. You're thinking to yourself, oh, Florida State got exposed. Miami's going to roll. Guys, the line's 4.5 on the game at FanDuel. Miami minus 4.5. So we still don't know what we don't know. And what I mean is we're heading into, week 6 now, I think. Miami hasn't left home really yet. Miami is in a situation where there are parts of them we don't know about. Florida State, there are parts of them we found out about, but now they get to answer for it. We just saw Bama go beat Georgia on the road a few weeks after we saw them get exposed on the road. So that just goes to show you, in college football, the only constant is change. And the hallmark of the best teams is, especially when they get knocked down, they are all the more incentivized to continue to look for answers, and sometimes they find them. And you know what? Florida State just lost a game against Virginia. What if, wild theory as we start the prediction here, What if they change some things up? What if they learn some things? What if, tasting that blood of their own, what if that does something to the fighting spirit, the competitive character of that team? Well, strength on strength here. That's how I see this game. Florida State has to run it and stay committed to it. You are not going to gash Miami a whole lot. Just not going to happen. Even as I'm saying, that's one of the keys to this game. I'm not counting on Florida State running up and down the field. This is the number 2 rushing offense in the country. That's true. So, well, why don't you expect them to run up and down the field? Because Miami's got a top 10 run D. It's ranked number 8. It's better than number 8. There are not 7 rush defenses in the country better than Miami. Because Miami's already seen Florida and seen Notre Dame and even USF. Like, that's all baked into Miami's stat profile, whereas some of you have played glorified high school teams, so you padded your stats a little bit. Florida State hasn't faced a top 50 run defense yet. So they've stacked up a lot of really good, numeric games. I haven't seen them go against this. Here's the big question. The big question is, do we look at the crowbar theory being a possibility here? Meaning, you face such a better front than you have that you can't scale accordingly. Yeah, am I concerned about that? Yeah, I'm concerned about that a little bit. However, I look at the unique challenge that maybe a Gus Malzahn can pose to you. I look at the use of tempo here more than Miami's probably seen from anyone that could competitively match them talent-wise like FSU can. Like USF couldn't do that, even on their best day. They couldn't do that. And Florida runs one play about every 2 or 3 minutes, so I wasn't counting on it there either. They just got to scale this against Miami. And they have to, because if they don't, everything about Tommy Castellanos becomes kind of a moot point. So Florida State right now, 6.7 yards per rush. That's really good. Okay? I'll take like 4 3/4. I'll take 5. That's fine. I can win with that. Miami, though, 21% of the runs against that defense have gone for 0 yards or less. That's 1 out of every 5 times you run against them, you're getting tackled at or behind the line of scrimmage. So I'm concerned about it. Because if Florida State cannot move the ball at least to a minimum baseline of effectiveness, then it really doesn't matter what else happens. The only way at that point they're winning that is special teams or a bunch of turnovers that they force. Because what I don't think they're equipped to do is win throwing the ball. And the reason I say that is I look at Tommy Castellanos throughout his career. When he throws for 240 yards or more, his teams are 1-5. It's kind of counterintuitive. You would think the more passing yardage, the better they do. No, the more passing yardage, it normally means a little bit more desperation, but it also makes you really, really prone to bad decisions. And they're some good athletes, new additions and good athletes in this Miami secondary. So they either do that or they bust explosives. What I don't see, so what I say what I mean when I say that is they either sustain a ground game or they bust some really big explosive, like touchdown type pass plays. It's unlikely in the run game that they bust a bunch of explosives. It's more likely in the pass game. Florida State is second in the country in passes of 30-plus yards and 40-plus yards. Miami's secondary has been tested, but it's been tested a little differently here. And I just wonder, okay, there's still enough newness. There's still enough intrigue and mystery. I haven't watched that team go on the road, really. I haven't watched those new pieces in that secondary get tested the unique way that Malzahn's offense can test them. Maybe, just maybe, there are some leaks that get sprung there. So those are really the 2 ways that Florida State scores here. I don't think the intermediate pass game is going to be all that much of a threat here. I don't think that they're going to sustain these 10 and 12 and 13 play drives. Like what Bama did against Georgia last week is not what Florida State's going to do if they're going to win this. All right, so that's the FSU side. On the Miami side, kind of more simple. They just ask a basic question. It's a tale as old as time. It's a question as old as time. Are you man enough? Not the Sheryl Crow song, which is Are You Strong Enough to Be My Man? That will not be asked in the Miami-Florida State game Saturday night, or things have gone horribly awry. But what could be asked and what will have to be answered by Florida State is, are you man enough? Are you tough enough? Can you stand up to the challenge? However you want to fill that blank, because that offensive line is built to travel. Those tailbacks are built to travel. And you got to play them honest, because if you don't, you got a quarterback at Miami that can beat you. You got good receiving options that can beat you. Virginia ran for 200 plus on Florida State. Something's got to change there, because you got to at least make Miami open up the playbook a little bit. You can't just let them lean on you. You can't get to the end of the first quarter and have us all collectively realizing, oh, wow, if they can do that, they don't even need to do this, this, and this, even though they can do this, this, and this. FSU's key player here, it's not a mystery. If we were projecting this game in July, we would have said Deuce Robinson. That's the guy they're going to have shine. He's got more catches and yards than their next three receiving options combined, I think, right now, and confirmed via the graphic there. So that's the FSU side. What about Carson Beck, though? We made it almost 8 or 9 minutes into this. Haven't really mentioned Carson Beck. Well, he's there. He's there. I just wonder, he's thrown 3 picks so far this year. It concerns me a little bit, yeah. Again, Carson Beck's played a lot of football. So I don't think the environment's going to rattle him all that much. But what could happen is maybe somehow, some way, Florida State schematically takes Miami's fastball away from him. And that doesn't mean Miami's going to get stuffed running the ball. But maybe, you want 5+ yards per carry. Maybe it's 3.7 yards per carry. And it forces enough 3rd and 7 pluses. And it forces Carson Beck to do just enough with a group of wide receivers that are still new in a hostile environment, all working together for the first time, that you do force some turnovers. I'm cautious of that. I'm cautious of the road. I'm always cautious in college football when a team has not gone on the road yet. I'm always cautious about that. I am cautious about the Carson Beck turnover factor. I'm just cautious that this Florida State offense is going to stress Miami defensively in a way that they haven't been stressed yet. It's just a lot of firsts. Okay, Miami could go in there and win 38-10 for all I know. And I'll show you what the model thinks about this in a second. But also, remember, from an intangible standpoint, we've already seen this happen multiple times in college football this year. We watched a desperate Bama team, must-win mode, go on the road and get a win last week. We watched Illinois, who had just been body-bagged the week before, come home and get a straight-up win against Southern Cal, and a game that really wasn't even as close as the final score indicated. And what was the common theme there? And that's not an exhaustive list, by the way. What were the common themes? Desperation. Desperate, talented teams, at home no less, tend to put forth really inspired performances. Am I cautious of all that? Am I aware of all that? Yes, I am. Let's take a look at what the model thinks. FanDuel right now, this number's fallen throughout the week. It's sitting at Miami -4.5 right now. Our model agrees totally. We've had it at Miami -4. The FanDuel number kind of came down to where the model already was. I got to be real with you. I have no strong feel on this game. I think Miami is a very good team. I think they may be the best team I've seen so far this year. I am going to slightly pick them to win and cover. I'm not going to do the favorite to win and the underdog to cover with a number that small. There is zero shock with me if Florida State wins this game. Zero shot. It almost feels like it's too easily laid out for Miami right now. Everyone's anointed them, including me, at least in terms of being really good. Like, I've had them ranked number 1. And it almost feels like every year in college football, you get this team and you start to look at their schedule, man. Once they can get past this one. Well, what if they don't get past it? It's not the end of the world if they don't, by the way. But what if they don't? It never works out that clean. But you know what? I do think they have enough edges. I think they have more ways to win this game than Florida State. It doesn't matter if the one way Florida State can win it, they do. But I'll take Miami to win and cover. Buddy, I've got no confidence. No confidence in that game. But I'm confident I'll be there, right there on the sideline. I mistakenly, a couple of years ago, called it Doak Walker Stadium. Remember that, Jesse? And it was an accident. I know it's Doak Campbell. But we got lit up. So anytime I'm talking about a home game at Florida State, where I have not been for a game since 2016, mind you, I'm always careful. I don't mess up the name Quick Trip, though, because they fuel the Fall Don't Lie tour. And we are headed in Week 6 to Tallahassee, Florida. We'll be down there for that one. The last time I was there, I was just talking to someone about this today. The last time I was at a game at Florida State was Deshaun Watson and Clemson came in there in 2016. And it was a night game. Jimbo was there, Dabo, Jimbo. And I think it was like 35-31, something like that was the final score. But I remember thinking to myself, okay, Deshaun Watson and Clemson, they're gonna do it again, because I thought for all the world that was Florida State's game. And sure enough, they came back and won on the road. And I just remember thinking to myself, this place seems insane. Like, I cannot believe someone just came in here and got a win. That's the way they talked about week 1 this year. Remember, kids? It was, a little over a month ago? Maybe like a month ago? You remember how loud that place was? You remember how people came out of there talking about how big a perfect storm it was? And Bama got rattled and they didn't know what to do. Well, if you did it against Bama, could you do it against Miami? Line is 4.5. For anyone thinking this is one you can just overlook, the line is 4.5. We'll be there, thanks to Quick Trip. Next up, there's something about Prediction Tuesday. Something about it. Vandy is at Alabama. Saturday, 3:30 Eastern, 2:30 Central Time kickoff on ABC. This was the biggest shocker of a result in all of 2024. Point spread was, I think, 22.5. Yes, there were bigger point spread upsets last year. I don't know how you feel about it and felt about it. This was the most shocking outcome that I remember last year. Just remember, it's kind of similar to this year. Alabama had just beaten Georgia at home. They're going on the road to take on Vandy, and they lose outright. Just a stunner. And I remember that I was at a Texas A&M Missouri game, which was a blowout, and I'm flying home as that game's taking place, and I feel like an idiot because I flew all the way to Texas to watch Missouri get splattered when I could have just walked to the Vanderbilt game. Literally, I could have walked from my apartment and seen the outcome of the year, the stunner of the year. And then they took the goalposts down Broadway. This really happened. We could see it. If I were in our studio at the time, I could have looked down on the street and watched the goalpost get taken to the Cumberland River. But nope, I had to go to College Station. We had a fun time that weekend. But yeah, game day's in town for this. Everyone's attention is on it. Vanderbilt, for the first time in my lifetime, has the full attention of a program like the University of Alabama. Like, everyone's paying attention to the game. I don't know if you're new to college football, if that really clicks with you, but if you've been around for a while, if you're like 25 or older and you've got a sense of history about the game, for Vanderbilt to have Alabama and the country's full attention in a matchup like this is amazing. For that matter, for Vandy to be in Tuscaloosa and only be a 10.5-point dog is also a really, really big deal. But they don't want to cover. They want to win. So let's talk about it. The question is obviously, can Vandy pull it off again? Let me give you a few reasons to suggest yes, they can. Last year, they ran the ball on Bama. They have a top 20 rush offense this year. Bama currently sits 90th in run defense. Bama's faced some decent teams running the ball. Yeah, okay. Vandy can run it. They got that quarterback that can run it. They got some horses. They can run the ball. Number 2 reason, last year's game featured a 42-minute to 18-minute time of possession advantage. Lean Vanderbilt. Vandy is once again a top 20 team in the country in time of possession. Thirdly, Vandy is 4th in third down conversions in the country this year. You remember this game last year? They were 12 of 18 on third down and 1 of 1 on fourth down. Bama couldn't get the ball. They never had the ball. And when they did, they turned it over. They lost the turnover battle as well. So there are certainly carryover elements of Vanderbilt. Same stuff you saw last year, you've seen this year. Here's why it could be different. Alabama is one of 3 teams in FBS with no turnovers. They have not given the ball away. And that's not some fluke. It's never a fluke when you get 5 or 6 weeks in and you haven't turned the ball over. But if you listen to them, even in fall camp, what was the one thing that Ryan Grubb and that coaching staff kept saying about Ty Simpson? He doesn't turn the ball over. He's protected the football. They kept talking about how all throughout fall camp, we've turned it over like 2 or 3 times or whatever. Well, that's tracked. That's carried over. So we've got that. But, even though they aren't running the ball great, they're still 13th in the country on third down conversion percentage. That last game really helped that stat uptick. They're 30th in the country in time of possession, which is weird because you would think to control those metrics, to thrive in those categories, if you're Alabama, you got to be able to run the ball. But their running numbers, rushing yards per game, they're 108th in the country. I don't know what else to tell you. If you watched the Georgia game, I think you saw what we talked about. Kublik came on the show last Thursday, talked a lot about extensions of the run game, how they accomplish what the equivalent of rush yardage would be. They just don't do it the same way a Nick Saban team would have done it, the same way a Kirby Smart team tries to do it. Now, do you have to be a little bit more efficient? Is it a little bit higher skill level and more people required, more time invested required to accomplish that? Yeah. But when it works, it works. And it's worked for them so far. They're a much more consistent offense. I think Ty Simpson's making the right decisions. And because of that, that doesn't immunize you from getting beat. What it does mean is the other guy's got to beat you. I don't mean that disrespectfully. I don't mean they handed a game to Vanderbilt last year. But to say that they came up here fully prepared, I think would be a lie. To say they focused on Vanderbilt last year, I think would be a lie. So how does Vandy beat an Alabama team whose full attention they have? Well, I think it really comes down to Vandy's secondary. How gettable are they through the air? Because they hadn't faced a top passing attack at all. The statistics say they hadn't faced a top 50 passing attack, and I think that really tracks. Like the closest, theoretically they may have come is facing South Carolina, again, theoretically, but Sellers was out most of that game, so they didn't really get anyone. And now by far they'll face the best quarterback they faced all year. They won't face a better stable of receivers than this all year. So what Alabama's got to try and do here is just flip the game script. All the stuff they did to you last year, you flip it by converting on third down, by doing what you did against Georgia last week. I mean, it was Bama that dominated time of possession. It was Bama that dominated third down. Well, if you come close, just remotely close, to knocking down the dominoes you did against Georgia last week, you will have flipped the Vanderbilt game script from last year. And I don't think anyone looks at it and says Alabama's got to be utterly dominant. They don't have to go scorched earth here. You just can't implode in those categories. The other theory that I'm working off of is the FSU loss kind of changed Alabama. I was just talking to Chris Lowe, legend of the business. Chris Lowe is in the building tonight, and he's probably 20 feet away from me right now. We were just talking before the show. Hey, it's pretty obvious the Florida State loss triggered something in Alabama as a program. But if you get granular, I'd love to know, did Tommy Castellanos' performance in that Florida State game in week 1 trigger something in Kane Womack and that defense? We can't know until Saturday. We can't know, but mobility at the quarterback position has given them fits. It gave them fits in week 1. Sure enough, here comes Diego Pavia rolling into town. Last year, he was 16 of 20 through the air for 252 yards, 2 touchdowns, but he also ran the ball 20 times for 56 yards. But a lot of his mobility just ate them up. A lot of his mobility then opened up lanes and gap integrity. I cannot tell you how many times I heard those words in the pejorative context the week after Alabama played Vanderbilt. So how much did they learn? How much did Tommy Castellanos doing what he did to them in week 1 wake them up just from a defensive standpoint? What kind of adjustments are made? What kind of adjustments can they make? They're missing James Smith the first half of this game. Quay Russaw got hurt last week, so they're not 100% defensively. No one is. That includes them, though. So can Vandy pull it off again? Let's take a look at what the model thinks. FanDuel number has come down. This was at one time, I think, Bama minus 13.5. We got it at 12.5 the other night when we were doing the Sunday show. That's what it was at. It's at Bama minus 10.5 now. We still think the number should be lower. Our model has Bama minus 9. We took Vandy at 12.5 as one of our best bets of the weekend. I just flat out think they're a good enough team to hang with Alabama. They got a puncher's chance of beating Alabama. They will be within reach. And I also go back to this. Okay, I know if you're a Bama fan, you think to yourself, we just beat Georgia, and you did, and that's wonderful. Think about the Kalen DeBoer profile, the team profile. What's his best team been? His best team's been Washington, and that Washington year where they went all the way to the title game. I remember that year, number one, because I kept picking against them and being proven wrong. It's like a pie in the face every weekend. But the other thing I remember is how many one-possession games they played. Even in his best year, the wins are close wins. They didn't blow many people out. And so I think about this game. I think Alabama will win the game. That's my pick. I think Alabama will win the game. But pulling away from Vanderbilt is not going to be easy. And I'll tell you this, I was looking at our power ratings a little while ago. Just in terms of raw power rating, strip away the Vanderbilt logo. They compare very favorably to Michigan right now. If Michigan were coming to Tuscaloosa Saturday, you would still think you're going to win. But a lot more of the country would be taking them seriously. They'd be taking the matchup seriously. That's how seriously you should be taking this. That's the caliber of team that Vanderbilt is right now. Michigan, USC was another one that was right there. Again, these are not teams you think are as good as Alabama. I don't think they're as good as Bama. But you would take the threat seriously. Take this threat very seriously. We are taking Vandy to cover. That's actually one of our best bets of the week. But I am taking Alabama to win. So I think it's right there in that 6, 8, 9 kind of point range. Let us move on. Did I bring... Yeah, brought the chapstick. No free shout-outs, but forgot to put it on before the show. We've got a game this Saturday in the Swamp that I swore would be one of the games of the year back in the summer. And it's Texas and Florida. Both of them are coming off a bye. It is a Saturday 3:30 Eastern Time kick on ESPN, and it's not a game of the year candidate. I haven't even heard many people talking about it. It's a shame. It's a shame. It's a shame. Texas is favored by 6.5 here. DJ Lagway was quoted earlier in the week as saying, eventually this offense is going to pop. And when it does, look out. And I assume he means in 2025, but I don't know. It could mean anything at this point. Look, if your offense is going to pop at some point this year, Texas's is going to pop at some point this year. So who knows? They're both coming out of their bye. Maybe both offenses pop. Unlikely, since the total's 41.5 in the game. Unlikely, since we have the number 103 and the number 123 offenses in terms of third down conversion percentage. But hey, the past is the past and the future is now. So this is a hopeful paper pop, okay? Frankly, I don't have much to go on. But I'm hoping some things change for Florida coming out of the bye week. They're 106th in explosive pass rate right now. So I think they got to take multiple shots in this game. Is it a high percentage chance? No, it's not. But if you don't convert them, you got a no percentage chance of winning this game. But it doesn't happen without a couple of things. Because I remember, just like you do, the 5 turnover game against LSU. So it seems weird I'm sitting here calling for DJ Lagway to throw. You can't not, but what you can do, and this is the prerequisite to taking your deep shots, is you got to fully commit to the run. Much like FSU, you're going to run into a brick wall many, many times, but you got to stay committed to it. Right now, you're sitting at 5.9 yards per carry. Jaden Ball is. And yet, I watched the LSU game, and he carried it 10 times. And I watched the Miami game, and he carried it 12 times. These are not blowout games. These are very close games, and they're just not giving him the ball. I have no idea why. And I don't question play calling. And I won't question individual play calling even in that sense. I will question philosophy. Why? Why did you think it gave you a better shot for DJ Lagway to throw that many times against LSU, a team also incapable of pulling away because they can't run the ball, when you could have run the ball yourself and controlled a lot more of the game? So one of the things that I always have in consideration when a team's season has gone bad, doubly especially when they have a bye week, is they have very little incentive to keep doing what they've been doing. Now, that's no guarantee that the changes they make will work, but they will make changes. So I certainly think they'll commit more to the ground game here. You got to flip third down, and it helps a lot more when it's third and short. But Florida right now, 123rd in third down conversion percentage, and Keith Niebuhr over at Gators Online, part of the On3 network there, Keith Niebuhr put out this stat earlier today over there, and it's troubling. There's no other word to describe it. It's troubling. Florida 1 of 19 on third down of 9+. You think in your head, at some point you accidentally convert a couple of them. You got good athletes. At some point, just you accidentally make a play a couple of times. Nope. 1 of 19 on third and 9+. So run the ball, get yourself in favorable third down situations, and just remember, you got really good players. You're supposed to have a really good offensive line. Third down is the pre-padlock stat here. I'm going to say it for a third time. Here, I'll pop the paper for real this time. This could be a historically, it's like a historical slog fest, I guess would be the best way to describe it. If neither of these offenses come out of their shell, neither third down conversion team is in the 100s, in top 100. Like, they're both in the 100s in third down conversion percentage. It's a stat category so rare, I don't even know how it's supposed to come out of the mouth. I don't even know how I'm supposed to say that. Texas may just take over with pass rush. That's the thing about Texas. It's what's gotten them by so far. Even when all the rest of this stuff fails them, they can just go harass the quarterback all day. And if they do, then we don't need the Arch breakout tour to launch in Gainesville, Florida. It can wait. But just something to consider here. This is the part where you still don't know what you don't know. What would Florida be if they had played Texas's schedule? Because I'm arguing they would have Texas's exact record. I don't know what Texas would be with Florida's schedule. But I think if I changed nothing about Florida, but I just gave them Texas's schedule, Florida would have gone to Ohio State, probably lost, and then they would have beat San Jose State and UTEP and Sam Houston, I think. Okay? Don't throw USF at me. USF would also be a double-digit favorite against all these teams Texas played. And my point there is, maybe in that scenario, Florida's still bad. It's just been masked. And okay, I'll grant you that. But my follow-up is, what if that's Texas? What if they're not all that different? I think they are. There's a reason Texas is still nearly a touchdown favorite on the road here. Yeah, I think they are. I think a lot of things. I thought Illinois could beat Indiana a couple of weeks ago. And I was not wrong. It's just that kids and coaches and officials screwed up. So kids and coaches and officials could screw up again here, you know? Let's take a look at what the model thinks. Texas also, as I throw up what the model thinks, just remember this. Texas going on the road, 126th in the country in penalties. Florida is at least top 40 in that category. The swamp does not make you more disciplined. I'll just say that. Not a Meemaw quote, but it could have been. FanDuel's got this number at Texas minus 6.5. We've got it at Texas minus 5. I woke up with a feeling Sunday. I have not gotten rid of it. I think Florida's going to win this game. Don't ask me how. Don't ask me what happens afterwards with Billy Napier. I don't know. I think Florida's going to find a way to win the game. I'm just telling you, I don't think there's that much separation between the teams. I've been accused of hating on Texas lately. That's not true. I have chastised the model for being too high on Texas. I'm not anti-Texas. I think, again, there is something to be said about the fact that that team did not quit on Napier last year. I don't think they're going to quit on him this year. They have played a little bit tougher schedule than Texas, and therefore they have contributed themselves to their own downfall. They've also faced some pretty stiff competition, and it's led to this perception that there's this big gap between these teams. Maybe there is, maybe there isn't. Maybe we haven't gotten Lagway at anything better than a C-plus performance level so far this year, and we get an A- out of him Saturday. That combined with that defense and Texas's offensive struggles and their wide receivers' inability to separate could be the difference. So I'm going to roll the dice, man. Everyone else giving up on Billy Napier. I'm going to roll the dice. I'm going to buy Florida one more time. I'm going to take him to win the game outright. I tried to flex in that one. Not as good as our friends at Flex Power, but I tried. I tried. So I was talking with the folks at Flex Power earlier today, and they're a new partner of ours. So myflexpower.com is where you can go. Really good products over there. I just want to remind you, if you are unfamiliar, just with the PERPI, plural of purpose, of generators, you use those things for a lot. They really come in handy. I'm around them a lot, for instance, in storm damage repair mode, because I am a storm chaser. So I see backup generators have to get used all the time. But you can use it to power a pitching machine, which maybe you purchased at Academy. You can use it to pressure wash the driveway. You can use it to inflate a bouncy castle for the birthday party. There are a million different uses, but you know where I see it the most is at tailgates. Because you got a Flex Power generator at a tailgate, especially the 3300i, just my preferred model, you are a hero. You are quite literally a king. You don't walk into the tailgate scene with a Flex Power generator and become less popular. I'm not saying that it's going to make you prom king or queen or anything like that. You still got work to do yourself, but I'm just saying it doesn't hurt. It does not hurt at all. And we're very excited that they're on board. Friends, long-time friends of the program. Man, I had a stat. You know what? I'm going to read the stat. The preview's already done for the game. But I just want to tell you, about that Texas-Florida game? They played last year. Okay, it was 42-0 Texas in the third quarter. Texas had 6 TDs in that game. 2 of them were by Golden. He's gone. One was by Gunnar Helm. He's gone. Isaiah Bond, gone. Blue, gone. Ewers, gone. Wisner scored 1. He's still there. And he is not, a star player for them so far this year. I know Texas has players. I know they do. I just think the game's going to be closer than the public thinks, because the public thinks it's like this get-right spot for Texas. Texas goes in there, and no matter how they win, it's like an assumed thing that they'll win, and we'll see if they can, start building some momentum. And they play Oklahoma next week, by the way. They play them, Red River Shootout, a game known by no other name than that on this show. That's a week from Saturday. What if it's undefeated Oklahoma against 2-loss Texas? Someone floated that theory in week 1. Don't know whomst. I got a good question here. Ryan from, what is this town in North Carolina? Boys Creek? Is that what we think, Bradley? Is that what we think, Jesse? Well, yeah, whatever. Boys Creek in North Carolina. Well, Ryan from beautiful North Carolina asked this question. What's the most overlooked story in college football so far this season? It's the transfer portal. But the transfer portal is a big story, but I'm talking about a very specific part of the transfer portal and how it's just changed the sport. And it's almost one of those things that's been happening right in front of your face. Like it's an overlooked story, but it's in plain sight. Look at how rapidly these programs have figured out evaluation in the portal. Because like when portal season comes, you'll go to on3.com and you'll look at the portal rankings. And they'll have the available players who have gone in the portal. We all pay attention to that. And you'll have some of them who go somewhere and they shine. And then you'll have others who will go somewhere and then you don't hear from them. And it's just good evaluation versus bad evaluation. All right? The hit rates this last cycle have been insane. So I'm showing you right now on the screen, if you're listening on podcast, this is On3's portal rankings from this past cycle. Carson Beck was the number 1 overall player available. David Bailey was in there. John Mateer was in there. Nico Iamaleava, just, pour one out. That's its own set of circumstances. But as you can see, there are a lot of names there, specifically at Oregon, that are making big impacts. But Texas Tech, just if you look at the team rankings over at On3, Texas Tech, LSU, Ole Miss, Oregon, Miami, Missouri. Those were the top 6 teams. Those are all playoff contenders right now. And LSU's issues are not on the defensive side of the ball, where they completely overhauled things and did a great job over there. But look at Oregon. Just to give you an example, not of the fact that they're using the portal, that's not the big story. The big story is the hit rate. The big story is how these teams are fundamentally changing their trajectories in a given season like that. So Oregon goes and adds 11 guys from the portal. They got 3 offensive line starters. Did you watch them at Penn State the other night? Okay, they go on the road. Jesse, how many false starts? Like 2? Something like that? And they go on the road, and they weren't dominant. It took them a while, but they ended up winning the game. You're not supposed to be able to do that. You're adding portal kids. You're not supposed to be able to do that. In fact, that was part of the case for Penn State. And not only do they add 3 offensive linemen from the portal, like it's one thing to add them for depth. They added 3 starters on the offensive line. They got multiple starting DBs from the portal. They got a key tight end. Mekhi Hughes, the tailback, is the one people thought kind of highly of, and not a bad player, but he was not a guy that was going to come in there and be a star, like Ahmad Hardy at Missouri, for example, which is its own story, by the way. But Oregon could win the national title this year, for all we know. And the reason I'm mentioning it so emphatically, like I almost get worked up about it, is because there's this very antiquated way of thinking that it's lesser than to go to the portal to get talent. And it's a big risk of, diluting your culture. Hey, did you watch Oregon the other night? Does it seem like they're coming loose at the seams at all? Does it seem like they're a little rough around the edges culturally? Because it really didn't feel that way to me. It felt like they went into State College and threw 98 under the chin of James Franklin and his team. No problem. That, and then there's Texas Tech. Texas Tech added almost twice as many guys. as Oregon. So maybe you go for quality here. Well, Texas Tech needed both. They needed quality, they needed quantity. So Texas Tech goes and adds 21 guys from the portal. We counted earlier today. 13 of those guys have already played 100-plus snaps this year. Another one got hurt, or he was well on his way. And then several others are providing depth. Like there are a couple of other ones who have played over 50-plus snaps. And again, not a whisper of culture issue. I keep mentioning that because I got Clemson over here talking about how, no, we gotta stay very rigid and we got to adhere to our way of doing things, and we can't bend, not even a little bit. And the insinuation is there's a right way and a wrong way, or what they would say is there's the Clemson way. And it frustrates me so much because I know why they think what they think, and I think they're wrong. And the case studies are everywhere. Okay, Oregon immediately went to the portal and fortified a national championship contending roster. Texas Tech went to the portal, brought in wholesale changes, like they just imported a new defensive line. They go to Utah, quarterback gets hurt, doesn't matter, we're going to pull away anyway. Texas Tech is now the overwhelming favorite to win the Big 12. They're the best team in the Big 12 right now. They're the only team I've looked at just from a pure talent profile standpoint in the Big 12 and said, if that team makes the playoff, they could actually win some games in the playoff because they've got players that good. 6 of the top 10 players on their defense are transfers. They had the number 1 portal class in the On3 rankings. And again, I remember we were doing show prep about a month ago. It would have been about a month and a half ago because it was like 2 weeks to go until kickoff. And it was a Sunday afternoon. We were just talking to Joey McGuire, friend of the program. And he was explaining in as vivid a detail as he could what the vibe was like around there. And I remember he told us then, and you have since seen it borne out. He said, I know people are going to think that since we got so many portal kids, it's just a bunch of mercenaries here and it's a bunch of individuals and no team. He said, I swear to you, I've never had a better dynamic than I have right now. I don't know how to explain it if you're not here. I don't know how to explain it to people who, you know, have grown up knowing college football one way and you're just supposed to get all your talent from high school and otherwise it's going to be really risky. I don't know how to explain it. I'm just telling you, we've got an incredible culture. Cohesion is great here. Now, that doesn't guarantee we're going to win games, but I remember him telling me that in August. And I am sharing that with you because now you see it. They got Houston this weekend, by the way, or I think it may be a Friday game. But LSU, I was very critical of LSU the other night, not their defense. They've gone from 81st in the country to 59th in the country to now 11th in the country in total defense. They took 18 kids out of the portal this last year. I'll tell you what they didn't do. They didn't go get a right tackle. That was kind of the thinking around there. We got to address this defense, and they did. Austin Thomas may be the best general manager in the country. He's one of them, if not the. And over the past 2 cycles, they have done an incredible job of saving that defense, getting the players and getting the coaches. So credit where it's due to LSU. They went and got game-changing coaches. They've gotten game-changing talent, and their struggles this year have nothing to do with the defensive side of the ball. They just flat out, they did not go get offensive line help. They banked on the fact that they could develop right tackle. They have not. And you've also got a hurt quarterback, and you can't run the ball as a result, okay? That's not that defense's fault. So it's a little case study, a little individual case study there at LSU, but also Texas A&M. You know, Texas A&M is another example. They looked at their quarterback, Marcel Reed. They evaluated him. They defined him, his strengths and weaknesses, and they decided we need to be more explosive. We've got to have a better vertical pass threat because he can do it. We don't have the players here. So they went and got Mario Craver, and they went and got Casey Concepcion, and both of them are studs. You watched the Notre Dame game? Did you ever think in your life this time a year ago, boy, A&M, if they need to go on the road and score 40, throwing the ball, they'll be able to do it against a national title contender? No, you didn't. Now you do. Because the portal, just like that, can change the fortunes of a team. Miami was terrible in their secondary last year. Horrible. Miami is one of the best teams in the country right now. They are now top 25 in passing defense. and they've only got one returning starter in that secondary from last year. Elsewhere, they brought in an entirely new secondary and a new coordinator, and voila. Now, the question with them and all these teams is, as you get deeper into the season, does it sustain itself? But there's also, it sounds good here. If you're just listening to this and you know nothing about the portal, you would think, oh, everyone should use the portal. Oh, no, it's very risky. It's very risky. You still, in an ideal world, would love to just build strictly through high school. None of these places look and say, yeah, we just want to live in the portal forever. They're just not dumb enough. They're not ignorant or obtuse enough to say we're never going to use the portal. But it does have its downsides. For instance, at Auburn right now, they had to nail quarterback, and they didn't. And they are suffering and are going to continue to suffer as a result of the fact that Jackson Arnold's not the right guy. Their offensive line situation is a mess. At Nebraska, we were up there a couple of weeks ago. Everyone thought that Elijah Pritchett, they went and got him to transfer from Alabama. They thought that that was going to be an answer for them at one of the tackle spots. It wasn't. And Michigan caved them all afternoon because they didn't nail that. So it is not without its risks. But I'm telling you, that's why I'm pointing out evaluation. Okay, Pritchett was a poor evaluation. He was never going to be a game changer. He is definitely not worth the money Nebraska paid him. Jackson Arnold, ditto at Auburn. But go ask Oregon, as they were flying home from that game in State College, Isaiah World or Pregnon or these guys that we got on the offensive line. I mean, that is the difference in the futures of a coaching staff, the future of front office, the future of the players themselves, the future of the other guys who were already on the team. And I just love to know, I do know because I'm around Oregon enough, but I'd love for everyone else to listen to how the other guys in that locker room feel because those guys came in. You think everyone's standing in their respective corners? The guys that got recruited to Oregon out of high school and they're over there staring at the guys who portaled in? No, they're all wearing the same helmet on Saturday, fighting for the same thing on Saturday. Are they getting paid money, aren't they, Josh? Yeah, they are. Can you pick out the ones who are and aren't being paid big money? Pop on that Oregon film. Pop on that Texas Tech Utah film. Which of those Texas Tech players were exhibiting selfish tendencies in that pull-away win? Did anybody see that? I haven't noticed that. So, look, I was resistant to a lot of this change. Truth be told, I still prefer the old school way. I love what recruiting used to be. I loved knowing that if a guy committed to Tennessee out of high school, pretty decent chance he's going to be there 4 years. It made me care about the recruiting process on the front end a whole lot more. It made National Signing Day my Christmas, essentially. So, yeah, I miss it, but I can't go back. I can't control it. Most of these coaches, truth be told, they'd love to do that as well. But there's a difference in living in a fairy tale world and living in the real world. And I think the biggest story right now is some guys have embraced the change and thrived because of it. Like Dan Lanning's life has changed because of the portal. That doesn't mean they don't recruit their tails off, but it does mean that there's this entirely new mechanism here that if we've got holes on our roster, we don't have to bubblegum and paperclip our way through a season. If we can pony up, if we got an organizational structure, our donor class, our administrative class, they're willing to play ball with us, we don't have to just go patchwork. We can cement one of those holes closed with a future first-round NFL draft pick. It's there. You can either choose to use it or you can get beaten because someone else used it. Those are really the only two options right now. And then there's a third option, Academy Sports and Outdoors. Now, they've been legit for a long time. And frankly, I don't think if you go to Academy, you need to go anywhere else. Sometimes if you just recruit, you got to go to the portal. I don't think if you go to Academy and you look long enough, you need to go many other places. Like they don't sell gasoline there. So you may have to fill up the car on the way home. I have an idea where you should go. But other than that, they got your Big League Chew. They got your overalls. They got your canopies and your tents. They got your buckets with the padded tops. So not only can you carry around your baseballs or softballs, but you can also sit on it. It's great. They're great. If you can't get there in person, academy.com has you covered. They have been a longtime partner of ours. I'm just going to say this. I don't think we could get by without them. There you go. I don't even say that about Bradley, and I say that about Academy. We have arrived at the portion of the show where I have to do a couple of things. First thing I have to do is take a sip of water. No free shout-outs on the jug. And the second thing I have to do is I have to take a little bit of a victory lap. But that doesn't sound like me. So you know what? I'll call an audible. I won't take a victory lap here. Here's the beginning of the segment, Bradley, so you'll know for later. It is time to unveil the Week 6 edition of the JP poll. Not rankings, but ratings. So these are not rankings. That we do Thursday night. And it's starting to make a lot more sense to people because I noticed as the dust settled on Saturday, I opened my DMs, and it's never a good idea, but you know what, I'm not gonna lie. I interact with a bunch of you via DM every day. But I opened my DMs, and you know what I found, Jesse? I found a lot of people congratulating us. And I said, why? And they said, well, I noticed that you had LSU low already, and now it looks like you were proven right. Noticed you never really dropped Bama far, and they beat Georgia. Looks like you were right. Florida State. That was Friday night. We didn't have Florida State any higher than, I think, 14th or something like that. They lost. Now, why is that important? It's important because the JP poll is predictive, and it is built just to compare teams who would be favored against who on a neutral field. And now there's some results already this year, like Florida State over Bama in Week 1, that when Florida State did not jump Bama in the JP poll, it got a lot of people upset because they didn't understand the concept of neutral field favorability. You remember, a couple of weeks ago, I hit up FanDuel just so they could back us up on it, and I had them confirm. This was in Week 2, right after Florida State smoked Alabama. And they said if the game happened again today on a neutral field, Bama would be an 8.5-point favorite. So we were right. There wasn't even a matter of opinion, and people were still arguing with us. Well, now that we've gotten a few more weeks down the road, you've started to see some of the results happen that backed up what the JP poll had, and that included last week. Like, we even disagreed with Vegas last week because we had Ole Miss already ahead of LSU by a pretty wide margin. But we thought Ole Miss was already better than LSU. We've been dropping LSU steadily 2 weeks through 3 weeks in a row, I think. The model has, because it picked up on the flaws. Okay, so I just used that as the backdrop because we were accused of things like clickbaiting, you know, for committing the sin of not having teams where some people thought they should be. Well, the results are kind of backing up the model a lot more than the claims of clickbaiting. Plus, I don't know what I want you to click on. Maybe the video. I don't know. Anyway, here we go. Number 20 this week, Michigan. We got Vandy at 19. Remember, these are not rankings. I would have Vandy ranked much higher. I consider Vandy and Bama possibly a top 10 matchup. We got to see where Bama's ranked Thursday in the commissioner's poll. Utah is number 18. They're up 4 spots. Florida State's at 17. LSU is at 16. Notice LSU didn't drop. I think they dropped 1 spot. Florida State dropped 1 spot. We already had them in the right place, so we didn't have to adjust them. We got pretty much the performance levels that we thought we would get from LSU and from FSU, so we didn't have to move them a whole lot. We were ahead of the curve on them. That's good. That's what we're trying to do. It's predictive. Missouri's at 15. Tennessee is at 14. And Tennessee, they dropped 3 spots, but they didn't really drop. We didn't downgrade them. It's just some teams moved ahead of them because we got the performance we thought we'd get from Tennessee too. Well, Mississippi State was one of our favorite bets of the week, remember. So we thought it would be a close game. The model thought it would be a close game. Therefore, when it was a close game, it got what it expected. That means it has no reason to adjust the power rating for Tennessee. We got Texas Tech 13, Texas A&M 12, and Indiana at number 11. By the way, with Texas Tech, there is now a 3.5-point gap between them and Utah at number 18. And I mentioned Utah because that's the next closest Big 12 team. So a little bit of a gap forming atop a usually very compacted conference. Let's go top 10, Bradley. OU is at number 10. Miami is at 9. Notice, JP poll, still just a little bit lower on Miami than the rankings would be. They're still holding off a little bit. I know a lot of you find it shocking, for example. Texas is at 8. Penn State's at 7. A lot of you find it shocking. Penn State would still be favored against Miami. I don't know what to tell you. They would, at least according to the model. Ole Miss is at number 6. We got a lot of pushback last week when we already had Ole Miss top 10. Now everyone does. We got them at number 6. Penn State at number 7 also is the classic situation of it not being a ranking. I didn't have Penn State at number 7 in my rankings last week. I already had them down at number 10 last week before they got beat by Oregon. So definitely power ratings wise, the model is going to be higher on Penn State than a ranking. Penn State has no business being top 10 in any ranking right now. But there aren't many teams that would just straight up be favored against them on a neutral field. So you're not going to drop them too far. Penn State, I don't know how they didn't really drop all that far at all. Number 6 is Ole Miss, like I said. All right, 5-1. Notre Dame at 5, Georgia at 4, Bama at 3. They're still right there next to each other. Oregon is 2. Ohio State, number 1. There is a 3-point gap between Ohio State and Oregon right now. I don't know that I buy that, but hey, whatever. They're not going to play for at least another couple of months if they do play. There is a 10-point gap between number 2 and number 18. So still some very, very unprecedented compactedness at the top of the field. But yeah, Ohio State has opened up as big a gap between number 1 and the rest of the field as we've seen all year. It's a 3-point gap. So that could change week to week. And I also do want to note, they beat Washington last week. Really good win on the road, shut them down. Our model has Washington in like the 40s. I don't know what that means. It may mean nothing. Ohio State did win convincingly, but just as we continue to choose how much stock to put in wins, I'm just keeping that in mind. There's not really a whole lot of opportunities for Ohio State to get exposed, even if they do have vulnerability, and they may not have a lot. Like, really good coaching job going on right now in Columbus, Ohio. They're watching us in Alexandria, Virginia, in Venice, California, and in Panama City Beach, Florida. Thank you so much. Let's continue. We've got a very sensitive topic here. Very sensitive topic. Earlier today, I was made aware of a tweet from someone near and dear to most of our hearts who is a real person. Unfortunately, this week, he is a real person, and that is Producer Jesse. Producer Jesse went to Penn State, loves Penn State. You cut him open, and you don't have red all over the carpet. It's blue and white. How does it happen? No one knows. But he's all in. Okay, so Producer Jesse goes to Twitter earlier today, and he says, all right, here's the tired point of view. Penn State lost another big game, and we're destined for another above-average season that ends in a gut punch. But here's the wired point of view. Our offense was terrible for 3 quarters, and we took a top 3 team in the country to double overtime with multiple opportunities to win. So, as you can see, they're going to let it happen to them again. And it's time to do a good old-fashioned Penn State mood tracker around here. I went over to Blue White Illustrated earlier. I just wanted to see what Sean Fitz and the boys were talking about over there. I wanted to take the temperature. And there are some folks who were out. There are many more folks like Jesse. There are many more folks who have won plenty of bronze medals. They've even placed silver a few times. Gold has eluded them. But that doesn't mean you ever stop chasing. So I had Jesse get out of his chair today, and I had him go sit on the couch for a little while. Because as you know, I'm a licensed therapist. I'm not. And I had Jesse describe his mood to me. And he started going down these really, really long, rambling, incoherent sentences. And I said, no. Use your big boy words, adjectives, one word at a time. Describe how you feel. The most unfortunate paper pop this side of Saturday night. Producer Jesse feels disenfranchised. He feels detached. He feels disappointed. There's more than just D here, immunity. He feels gullible. He said he felt gullible. He said he feels victimized. He even said he felt bamboozled, which I thought was a word that got retired in like 1996. He feels jettisoned. And I thought he was done. There's a long pause, and I started to move on with my life. And then he said, but I'm also hooked. So Jesse's still all in. James Franklin, I know, watches every second of every show we do. And so he needs to know, you need to know, Coach, that you've still got producer Jesse. But you need to be careful. That's a fragile heart that you hold in your hands right now. And he's not alone. Like I said, I went over to Blue White Illustrated today, and there's a lot of vulnerability. There are a lot of feelings being shared on the message board over there. And, of course, there is a cure, and it's called UCLA. And fortunately, I think it's the best time to get out of town and fly 19,000 miles across the country. Go over there tomorrow, for all I care. Spend as much time away from home as you can right now. It's good to get out there. Get you a little sunburn. Okay, go stroll the beach for a little while. It's UCLA. You'll be fine. Just show up on time on Saturday. You'll be fine. I have a theory. You want my mood on Penn State? I've got a theory that I stated as soon as the game ended, and we talked about it on Sunday night. My theory about Penn State football is a new timeline started the moment that game ended Saturday night. But I don't know what kind of timeline it is, because we're going to have like 3 years perspective down the road. We're going to have to get to 2028 before we really know which timeline started on that Saturday night in September after Oregon beat us at home. The first kind of timeline is it was the beginning of the end for James Franklin, and we just didn't know it at the time. And it may be that he takes another job. It may be that later he's fired, not this year, but down the road he ends up being fired, or it gets really messy and contentious and each side just despises each other and there's a lot of toxicity. That's happened in college football before. That's one possible timeline that begins. There's another possible timeline. This is the one I'm hoping for, and that is where James Franklin realizes I've gone about as far as my current approach will take us. But I haven't gone as far as I can go. I've just got to change some things about my approach. So I look at my roster. I had everything going for me this year. This game, we led up to it, and it culminated in me having a bye week and them coming across the country on the road with a new quarterback and a young team and a lot of new pieces, and all my pieces are well established, and it still wasn't good enough for us. So how can I ever hope to be in a better position doing it my current way than I am right now? Which de-incentivizes that and incentivizes doing it a new way. And my hope is that the new timeline that began is one that maybe changes, just degrees of change here and degrees of change there with the way James Franklin goes about running the Penn State football program that will ultimately yield a better result with a higher ceiling than the one we've seen so far. It's crystal clear. There's no more defined ceiling in college football than James Franklin currently has at Penn State. They just bang their head against it every year. So there is no more defined ceiling. He may disagree with that, but the results speak for themselves. So my point is that doesn't have to be James Franklin's ceiling. You got to change some things, okay? If you eat the exact same thing every day and you look the exact same way in the mirror, that doesn't mean you're incapable of looking different. You've just got to change something about the diet. You got to work out a little more. You got to take this away. You got to add this. You've got to basically align everything about what you are with your purpose and just do it a little better, do it a little different. Either way, a new timeline started the other night. And one thing to keep in mind, just as it relates to this year, okay, there's only so much you can change about yourself this year. I listened to his press conference either today or yesterday. He said all the right things, and he's right. It's a long season. Really, in the grand scheme of this year, all they've done is lose a conference game in overtime. It's not the worst thing in the world. I know all that. I know all that. I think we also know that this was a very different game. This was not just one game. Yeah, in the conference standings, it's one game. It represented a whole lot more. It was symbolic. It was like Boss Man getting hung at WrestleMania 15. It was symbolic. Michael Cole yelled it 1,000,000 times. Like there's a guy just dangling there from the ceiling. Seems pretty evident that that's the thing, but he kept yelling, is this symbolic of something? Well, symbolically, that loss was a whole lot more than just a loss. And let me use another late 90s pro wrestling metaphor. You remember King of the Ring 99, Jesse? You remember that main event? Ladder match, Austin versus the McMahons. Remember the briefcase? Austin's within reach, and then someone just yanks it up there. That's what it feels like right now. That's what it feels like for Penn State. But how many elite teams are there in the country this year? Because this is what they're kind of having to bank on right now. Penn State's not an elite team, but they're a really good team. There are not many teams that are better than Penn State. Because, like even in a down night the other night, like he said, they took Oregon to overtime. What you don't know is how the rest of the year is going to play out. You don't know what injury could do to other teams. You don't know that Penn State, even in their current state, may not be close enough to where +3 turnovers in a game may be all the difference in the world. I don't know if they couldn't go on to win the national title. I think their limit is below that of a national title. I think that. But there's no like unequivocally elite, better, above and beyond type team. There may be by the time we get to December. They may go to Columbus and lose 38-10. But they're going to be really competitive. So I'm not saying tap out. Jesse, stop. Don't tap out. But, believe but demand. I think that's the best approach right now. I hope this has helped. Speaking of Penn State, over at FanDuel right now, the exclusive odds provider of the show, what if I told you they still have the 5th best odds to win it all? Because they do. They do. I don't know that many of you are rushing to bet it at the moment, but they have the 5th best odds to win it all. And you can find that at FanDuel. I don't have to prove it. They'll prove it. They are my proof. I want to remind you, if you're a new customer, if you're a new sign-up over there, you can use that QR code, or if you don't trust QR codes, I don't, you can just go to FanDuel.com/Josh Pate and sign up and deposit however much you want. I don't care. Deposit $10, deposit $10 million. Probably a limit on the $10 million. Give it to me and then I'll give it to him. But here's the important thing you need to note. There's a pretty easy way to get more money, and it's very low risk. Bet $5 on anything, and if it wins, you get $300 in bonus bets. So, go find yourself like a 19-point favorite this Saturday. Just bet them on the money line. And bet $5 on it. If it hits, you'll get $300 in bonus bets. That sounds free, Josh. No, legally it's not. I cannot tell you that's free money. Because technically you could lose it. It's just not very likely that you lose that. And I hope you don't lose these either. These are our Ramen Noodle Express best bets for the week. I have 2 more to add tonight. So I'm already on Vanderbilt plus 12.5. We got that one the other night. That number has dropped 2 points since then. We are on Wake Forest plus 5.5. I have rare good news. You can get 6.5 right now. Here are 2 other games that we're on. Mississippi State plus 14.5 at Texas A&M. Louisville. Just the clouds broke and the sun shined down today. Louisville dropped to the number we want. They're at 6.5. Louisville minus 6.5 against Virginia. Virginia? The team that just beat Florida State? Yeah. Aren't they on added rest? Yeah. And wait, you're telling me they're getting 6.5? Yeah, lay the points. Louisville's going to win and cover. They haven't looked good all year. Well, they haven't looked like I thought they would all year. And Miller Moss has been up and down. I think they're going to be up on Saturday. So I'll take Louisville minus 6.5, Mississippi State plus 14.5, along with Wake and Vandy. Remember. Follow on the socials at Josh Pate CFB. Prez has got the TikTok account cooking. A combination of us have the Instagram channel cooking, plus the story on Instagram is where you get Friday Night Lines on Friday. It's where you get all the behind-the-scenes access on Saturday. I hit a ball like 900 feet in softball on Friday night. I put that in the timeline. Not metric system either. Good old-fashioned imperial system. Just good old-fashioned feet. Probably said at some point by she. All right. I appreciate you guys. We'll be back at what time, Jesse? 7 Eastern, 6 Central on Thursday night. We do the Thursday show an hour earlier because of the pesky NFL. For producer Jesse, for director Bradley, I'm Josh Pate. Take care. We will see you Thursday. And until then, God bless.